Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time, in my opinion, is a pretty interesting one and crazy one. I hope you enjoy it. Before we jump into it, just want to say, new song coming out in less than a week. Go pre-save it, link in the description. Tweet me or tag me on IG if you do pre-save it. I'm going to be following people back all week. And yeah, let's jump into this story time. So today's story time is about the time that my school brought in police dogs and they sniffed my locker, and there's a lot more that happens after that. So let's just jump into this story time and I'll tell you all about it. So this story time takes place in 10th grade. Now my school did not conduct searches on people's lockers very frequently, and they didn't bring in police dogs very frequently, but it happened frequently enough to the point where they'd usually always catch the person that was hiding stuff in their locker. So yeah, this story time starts off as a very normal day. I woke up, I got ready for school, I had breakfast, I went to school on the bus, I got to school, and I was the first one to class, which is usually not like me. Usually I would just kind of stand out in the hallway and talk to my friends until like the last second before the bell would ring. But today I was just too tired to stand around in the hallways. I went and sat down at my desk and just put my head down because I was so tired. I did not sleep much the night before. And my friend walks in, and he would always sit next to me in this class. And let's just call this person John, okay? Now, John was a nice guy, alright? I was friends with him in school. I wasn't like best friends with him, but I would still call us friends. But John would always expect me to do stuff for him that he would never do for me. For example, one time John didn't do the homework for our first period class, and he walked in and sat down and started freaking out because if he didn't pass that quarter, he had a really big chance of failing the class for the year. So he came in freaking out, and I gave him my answers. And then fast forward a month later, I came into class, and I was kind of freaking out because I didn't do the homework the night before, and I wasn't doing that good in the class. And I asked him to help me because he had it done. And he was like, "Nah, man, like, my answers, not yours." Which made me pretty mad. Me and him were definitely not friends for a little bit after that. But a couple weeks later, I found out he got all of the answers on that homework wrong anyway, so I wasn't too upset about it after that. Anyway, yeah, there's some backstory about, John and how he would act sometimes. So I'm sitting in first period class, I have my head down, it all started off as a normal day for me, and John came into the room, he sat down next to me, and he looked really anxious, like he was heavily breathing, he looked just super scared, and I asked him, I'm like, yo, like, what's wrong? He's like, dude, I got something in my backpack I forgot to take out, like, I was chilling with my friends last night, and I bought some weed off them, and I put it in my backpack, and I forgot to take it out. And I'm like, dude, okay, calm down, like we're in first period, just leave before the bell rings, run across the street and put it back at your house. Cause he only lived right across the street. Like he could walk to school in like 10 minutes and if he ran, he could get there in 5. So I'm like, bro, just run across the street, put it in your room and come back. Like you don't want to have that stuff in school. Like that's not going to be okay if you get caught. And he was like, nah, man, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Just go right now. And he's like, I don't want to be late for school. I'm like, dude, are you serious? I'm like, what's worse? You being late to first period class and getting some points off for the day, or you get caught with weed in your backpack and you get suspended? Like, dude, come on, weigh the options. He's like, you're right. And he quickly gets up and starts fast walking towards the door, and the bell rings, and my teacher goes, sit down, John. And she shuts the door, and John just turns around and does the slow walk of shame back to our table, and he sits down, and he just puts his head in his hands, and I whisper to him, like, bro, don't worry, you're gonna be fine, like, just get through the day. And he didn't say anything. So anyway, we get through that whole first period class, and the bell rings to let out, and I walk out of class, and I walk to my locker, and he comes up behind me, and he's like, Austin. I'm like, what's up, John? He's like, yo, can you please just take this bag off me for the day? Like, you could just keep it in your locker for the day. Like, no one would ever suspect anything. And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I can't. He's like, come on, bro, please. I'm like, dude, why can't you keep it in your locker? Like, come on, you have one. He's like, I don't know my combination. I'm like, bro, it's not my fault you don't know your combination. Like, come on, dude. He's like, please, Austin, like, please. And I shit you not, he starts crying. Like, he's tearing up and he's begging me to keep his little bag of weed in my locker for the day. And people are starting to stare at us because he's crying. And I'm like, yo, just stop crying. Fine, I got you. He's like, oh, you're the best. And he hugs me. It literally looked like we were dating and we got into a fight and then made up. Like, I can't imagine what the people around us thought. So he reaches in his backpack and he hands me this little bag and it's in a binder, and I take it and I put it in my backpack in my locker, and I grab the folders that I need for the day, and I shut my locker, and I plan on not going back to it for the rest of the day. And John just keeps thanking me. He's like, bro, you're a lifesaver. Like, bro, if my dad found out that I had that in school, like, I would be grounded forever. Like, you're the best. I'm like, whatever, dude, just don't ever ask me for anything again after this. And if I ever ask you for homework answers again, and you say no, I'm gonna buy a live possum and put it in your locker. And he starts laughing, and he's like, I got you, man. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not kidding about the possum thing. And then he just looks at me all straight-faced, and I was like, dude, relax, I'm kidding. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, but seriously, if I need help on homework in the future, you better help me. He's like, I got you, man. Don't know why I wanted his help. Like I said earlier, he got all of the answers wrong on that homework anyway, but it was just the principle of the whole situation. So anyway, me and him go to our next classes after that, and we get more than halfway through the day, and lunchtime finally comes, and we get to lunch, and me and him and a couple other friends all sit at the same table, and I was feeling super relieved at this point because there was only a couple more classes after lunch. So this is what I was assuming was going to happen. I'd finish lunch, I'd go to my next couple classes, I'd get through the day fine, I'd leave school with my friend. Outside of school, I would give him his binder with his little bag of you know what in it, and then I would never have to worry about it again. But sadly, that wasn't the case, okay? So next period came along, lunch ended, and I go to class, and I sit down, and right after I sit down and the bell rings, I hear an announcement come on saying that the school is going into lockdown. And my teacher, he was like, all right, guys, like, stay calm, just sit down in your desk. It's like, it's no big deal. They're just conducting a search. And I'm like, wait, what search? And they're like, well, every once in a while, we have dogs come in and sniff lockers. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, you look nervous, Austin. Why are you nervous? You got anything in your locker that we should know about? And he starts laughing, like he was joking. I'm like, oh, yeah, like, totally. And he's like, I'm just messing with you, man. But yeah, this will only last like 15 minutes. No big deal. I'm like, oh, okay. So inside, I am terrified. I'm like, oh no, like, please, 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 don't let the dogs go near my locker, please. But I already knew that I was going to get caught. Like, I pretty much knew it was over already. And my friend starts texting me, freaking out. He's like, dude, they have dogs in the hallways. Like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm done. I don't know. So like 15 minutes later, an announcement comes on saying that lockdown is over and that everyone can, move about freely. And I asked my teacher if I can go to the bathroom. And he's like, yeah, for sure. And I get up to leave and go check my locker to see if everything's still in there. And before I leave the classroom, another announcement comes on the speaker, and it says, we need to see Austin in the main office immediately. And I knew, just by the tone of the announcement lady's voice, that it was done. Like, I was caught. It's over. And I walk out of the room, I do the walk of shame, and I get into the principal's office, and my principal's sitting there, and the school police officer's sitting there as well. And my principal goes, Austin, have a seat. And I sit down. And my principal goes, so we conducted a random search after lunch, and we had police dogs in the school, and they picked up on your locker. So after they did, we conducted a search on your locker because we had reason to believe that you had something in it that wasn't supposed to be at school. And we found something. I'm sure you know what it is. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry for having it on school grounds. Like, I know I shouldn't have. And I just said sorry because there was nothing else to say. I'm not going to sit there and deny it. Like, they found it. And the school cop goes, wow, this is the most common interaction I've ever had with something like this happen. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, usually the person would say, oh, it's not mine, it's a friend's, or it's, this, or it's that. And I was like, well, yeah, I can't deny it. Like, you guys found it and confiscated it. But actually, it is a friend's, but it doesn't matter that I say that because it's in my locker, so I'm the one getting in trouble for it. And they both just look at me, and my principal goes, yep, sadly, you are in trouble today. And my principal called my parents, told them about it, and then suspended me for 7 days. I got 5 days out of school suspension and 2 days in school suspension. So I had to stay out of school for 5 days, and then I had to sit in a room for 2 days in school, pretty much by myself the entire time with a security guard and just do homework. So yeah, after that, I got sent home, and when I went home, I got a text from my friend being like, yo, do you still have it? I'm like, no, dude, I went up to the office, and they suspended me because they found it. And he's like, oh, well, my bad, bro, like, you probably hate me. I'm like, John, I don't hate you, but honestly, I'd rather not talk about this whole situation right now. Like, I'm trying to not think about the fact that I'm suspended for a week because of this. And he's like, I feel you, bro. I'm sorry. Like, let's play some COD tomorrow. That'll take your mind off it. And I was like, John, I would love to play COD with you tomorrow, but I can't because my parents took literally everything in my room that generates electricity because I'm grounded. And when I said that, I was making a joke about how I was grounded and how they took all my electronics so I couldn't have fun while I was grounded. But he literally thought I was being serious. He's like, wait, they took away your lights? I'm like, no, John, not my lights. I was making a joke about my Xbox and my TV and stuff. They don't want me having electronics. He's like, oh, I understand. Yeah, John wasn't very bright sometimes. But anyway, the only thing I got to keep when I was grounded was my phone for emergencies. But yeah, in the end, it wasn't really a happy ending, but I definitely learned a lesson about putting myself first before other people. So yeah, moral of the story is, don't do that ever. Not a good idea at all. Definitely put yourself first. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.
Talking down when you looking up and I'm like, what's up? They leave me out for the dead and now they know they're fucked. All my texts are unread, that's how I know she's done. My life changed in a flash, all my friends gone, my friends gone.